The history of luxury and fashion that is taught to us crumbles to dust as soon as one picks up a calculator. To dye one queen's dress purple, it is necessary to destroy 10 million mollusks. To dress one European court, hundreds of tons of gold thread the thickness of a hair, and fleets of ships not found in any registry are required. Where are these giant industrial complexes? Where have the documents on planet-scale logistics disappeared? Why is there not a word in the archives about the supplies of raw materials, of which millions of tons were required? And how is it that with the advent of precise instruments in the 19th century, the quality of fabrics did not improve, but instead collapsed? The official history claims that this was created manually in the light of a tallow candle. Mathematics proves that this is physically impossible. The main question is, who really created these technologies? And why do we still wear the remnants of another civilization?
Well, hello there. How you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic, back for another chat with Paula, and we are going down the fashion clothing rabbit hole again. How you going, Paula?
I'm great, Campbell, and you?
Yeah, good. Time is speeding up. God, time. We're
I
halfway
know.
through. We're halfway through March.
Do you know what? I go to bed, I get up in the morning, and I feel like that Groundhog movie. I get up, I do my whatever I do during the day, and next thing I know, I'm getting ready to go to bed and then start again. It's just it feels like the quickening's getting quicker and quicker.
The quicker quickening. I know it's insane. Like,
Yep.
literally in 2 weeks, we're going to be a quarter of the way through this year.
It's it's mind-boggling.
It's crazy, right? We're speeding up
Golly.
towards something good, though, I think.
Oh yeah,
Just
definitely.
speeding up the exit of the Lights.
So thank you all the viewers. I tell you, what a response to the last video, Campbell. How fantastic was that?
Yeah, it's doing well. Yeah, everyone seems to like it. Like we were saying before, this has been a topic, a question, right, for a long time. Is where do all the clothes come from? Why are they wearing all the clothes? Where do they make them? But no one,
Yeah.
well, that we've found has actually gone down that rabbit hole. So, yeah, I think it's about time.
Absolutely, it's about time, and it's there's a lot of subjects to cover, so I'll get straight into it if you want.
Do it. Yep,
And
let's jump in.
I'll try not to go off track because the problem is I didn't even realise, but the last video we had, I actually had an upload right in towards the end of it, and I didn't realise until I watched it back that it was happening. It was all about the Majestic, and I'm thinking, did all that come from? And it's like, oh, wow, I had a down or upload, I call it. So it does happen. It's happened a few times in these videos that we've had. So
yes, well,
you
that's
can't
pretty much,
control that.
no, that happens all the time. That's all we do here, really. Start talking and see what insights pop out.
Exactly. All
Yeah.
right, I'm going to start with this,
All
and
right.
we'll go into a little video afterwards. So the power of pigment. So pigment was the colours were very, very important, Campbell, not just to dye the clothing, but it was very symbolic right through the centuries, and it was a symbolism that carried through for wealth and status, even to a point which I've got a little photo of, and hopefully we can get to it towards the end of this. There is a 16th century description of colours and how they represent what they represented at that time, in those time periods.
Oh, okay.
They also represented, like we have this status thing now in regards to certain colours were banned. You weren't allowed to wear the colours because they represented, like yellow represented Judaism, and it was against the religions of the time that yellow was worn. The aristocrats were not allowed to wear yellow. It was banned. And yellow was another colour that was very hard to make.
Juice, yeah, I would think so, but But why
And
being
again, a
yellow?
wealthy
Yellow's
colour.
a good
Yes,
colour.
yellow. Yellow bordering towards orange represented religion that they did not want to be reminded of. No one was allowed to wear it.
Orange, oh,
So,
geez. I'm glad I don't use that colour.
yeah. So, like I said, and in certain colours, these paints and pigments were also used in, like I said, in the Renaissance time when we were at the peak of our paintings. And they were also used for the paints that were used for Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, and like I said, the Dutch painters that were well known at that time, which we're going to discuss a painting,
Right.
but not in this series when this series is finished. That, yeah,
Yeah.
I've explained to you, blew my mind, and it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in
Yeah,
my
you
life.
did mention that. I mean, then that's a whole nother rabbit hole, right? The
It's a
paintings
whole,
and even the artists and everything. It's very, very questionable.
absolutely. So, the rabbit holes of music and everything. Anyway, I'm not going off track. So, yes, it's symbolism. The colour symbolised a lot of things, and we'll go into the Venetian purple because that was very symbolic.
Yeah.
So,
And of course, we
in
have
the,
royal blue, which obviously
yeah,
would be up there. We even still call it that.
absolutely. So, I'm just going to read off what I've written. So in the old world, colour was much more than decoration. It was it was a spiritual connection, a symbol for some of the status and meaning. Egyptians saw colour as sacred, and the most sacred of all was the deep glowing blue created by grinding the lapis
Lazuli, is it?
lazuli, a
Yeah.
semi-precious stone found only in the distant lands of Afghanistan. The blue was extremely rare, and the colour represented the sky, water, and the divine. The colour was expensive to produce, and so only available to the higher being, and later still being used in the Renaissance period for painting. And textiles of high nobility and prestige. A colour so rare and expensive, and you'll hear this a lot, it had to be itemised and controlled to be purchased. So they represented the Virgin Mary's robes,
Yes.
and it was always depicted in
In
this colour
blue. Yeah,
pigment.
yeah.
So that colour was highly regarded, and like I said, the process of crushing that stone and bringing out the pigment of that colour was, it wasn't, and getting powder was not an overnight
Yeah. It was
situation, that's for
big
sure.
process. Yeah, yeah.
So then we go into a crimson red, used in the early times as well, and was made from a plant or a crushed beetle, which was called Merberta terrania or kermas. And that was a painstaking process as well. And it was also very highly valued. And the beetle-based dye was so precious that garments dyed with it were again restricted only to royalty and high-ranking clergy.
Yes, which they still wear that one as well, right?
Yes.
You see, yeah, all the bishops and that a lot. I'll just bring up some
Yep.
pictures. So this is royal blue, obviously Mary, geez, it's all Mary, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, keep talking. I'll just,
Okay. And so during wars, of course, red was represented for courage and sacrifice and blood. And definitely in the Middle Ages, because apparently in the Middle Ages they had lots of wars. But, how many wars is lots of wars? And a red dye came to the market of Europe in the 17th century called Kermes grandium,
Grandium.
and it was made as a favourite for the church. And like you said, and to this day, the cardinals' red colours are still made from the same dye applications.
Okay, so
From
that
that
must be from a
time period.
flower, I guess, is it? That Kermes grandium looks like it's a flower, a red flower. Yeah, there you go.
Well, no, it was another crushed beetle.
Oh, it was a beetle.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
another form of a beetle, but they also used the flowers. So it was a mixture of a lot of different natural plant dyes, and also, but mainly it was literally beetle blood.
Oh my
And then
God.
in the 16th century,
Like,
The
who thinks
Spanish.
up this stuff? Who like sees a beetle and goes, let's crush that up, drain its blood, and like put it in our clothes? And I
It,
was thinking before, it's interesting that it's called dye.
yes, isn't
Like,
it?
because lots of things have to die for you to
Die,
bloody make it.
including plants and beetles and everything. Yes, and other animals as well. So yes, it's no wonder it's called that.
Oh, wow. Okay. And there's even a cardinal beetle.
Yes.
So that's obviously another link there to the cardinals. Wow. Interesting.
So this is what they were using up until the 16th century, when they were in Mexico, and they discovered the cactus beetle. And the cactus beetle blood was used. Oh, it's not even real. Well, it is blood. It's a female beetle that thrives on the cactus or cacti, depending where you come from. And it's the beetle's like a fungi. So it just literally sucks the cactus dry.
Yeah.
And it's this white, moldy stuff that's on the cactus. And apparently the Aztecs and the Incas and all that, they all used this particular cactus beetle for colour.
And there must have been a lot more beetles back in the past than there are today because the numbers involved are ridiculous.
Well, we'll get into that because they are absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, the Mexican cactus beetle was discovered in Spain and was used for its rich red. And it was actually worth more than gold or silver and was guarded by military forces.
Wow. I mean,
So
that's what I
that,
like about the Vatican and the clergy. They always need guards to look after their stuff. But I thought
yeah,
God did that kind of thing. But there you
yeah.
go.
So isn't it? So if it became worth more than gold and silver at that time, and it was guarded by military forces, that tells me there wasn't much around,
Mm.
because
Well,
whatever was around, they needed to use for the cardinal or for royalty or whatever, and no one else was allowed to touch it or use it. So it
mm,
wasn't there wasn't a
abundant.
lot of
Yeah.
cacti in the area.
Mm.
That's just what I'm thinking. And apparently the monopoly over red dyes until the French actually smuggled. There's so many stories, Campbell. The French smuggled a cactus beetle to France, and it was a success.
Wow.
Now, now, okay, they established colonies of cactuses on French. They had made French farms. But wasn't France's climate a lot different to
Yes, like
Mexico?
a lot.
A lot different. So how is that possible?
Wow, it would be very hard. I mean, you would need a greenhouse, I would think, but one that somehow didn't hold
It's
the
heated.
moisture, right? Because yes, well, it's a lot
It's a
hotter. I
dry
mean,
continent.
drier. Yeah, yeah.
So as you read the narrative, I don't think it was successful, is what they say, because next thing the French are colonising in South America and the Caribbeans and started colonising these cacti in those areas for more beetle juice.
Beetlejuice. Geez, that was a movie, wasn't it? About some. Yes.
So this just keeps going on in the narrative, these ridiculous stories, because to me they're nuggets. So because we start mass producing, I mean, this beetle becomes, our food colouring, the colouring for lipstick, the colouring for our fabrics, the colouring for, all sorts of things. It's found in our food for everything, Campbell,
Yeah, this is the
nowadays.
one that yeah, they've been talking about kind of recently, haven't they?
Yeah, in little gummy colourings of gummies, because obviously they've worked out how to they can mass plant them. What they do is they cut the actual cacti leaf. I've seen a video of it, and they put this little V shape on top of the cacti leaf, and they feed something into this little pouch. And from that, the females produce, and then they start growing all over the cacti, and then they scrape the cacti off of this white substance, these little bubbles of white, and then they're crushed. And as soon as you crush them, they turn to red. But they're mass produced now.
Wow.
So we're going from being guarded by military forces to trying to produce farms and one stolen beetle to produce farms in France, to then going to the Caribbean and to South America by the 18th century to make more cacti for this red dye. Because this red dye, how it was produced back then, and they can't do it now, as they can't do it with a lot of the dyes, they became richer and darker in colour as they got older. And some were actually not affected by humidity, by dust, by anything. That you could store them in a chest for centuries, and when they were pulled out, yes, the fabric may have been eaten by whatever's in that chest if they didn't have the camphor. It wasn't a camphor chest, which camphor is also a natural wood that would repel insects. So, but the colours were always there, the same as the paintings in those time periods that use these original dyes. Those colours became more intense. They never faded in the sun. They never became affected by the environment. They just got richer and richer. And you see that with the paintings.
Mm.
It could never have been produced again, apparently. It doesn't matter how much they tried. I was reading about scientists and dye manufacturers and historicals again that tried to reproduce these dyes by the recipes that were given in the time period. They used old pots, metal pots, copper pots. They used everything possible, and they still could not reproduce the depth of colour that they could back then. And scientifically, they've tried it. And scientifically, with all the modern technology of looking at temperatures and, you know, changing certain environments with certain temperatures, and changing it to and adding whatever tannins were needed, they still couldn't produce that dye.
The same
and it's got them baffled.
intensity of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's got them baffled. They cannot produce the dye so it doesn't fade or doesn't. Some dyes naturally don't fade, like indigo is one of them. Indigo does not fade, but indigo was a different process of manufacture. It was a cold manufacturing system, not a hot manufacturing system, and it didn't need a lot of added things to it to produce the depth of colour that indigo gave. And indigo became, like you look at your denim jeans. I mean, how many times do you wash your denim jeans? When faded denim jeans came in, Campbell, you remember that apparently the quote was that they gave the denim jeans to prisoners, and they had the prisoners stone the denim and wash to give that faded look of Levi's had at one stage, especially Lee came out with a faded denim. And apparently that was a narrative, and it took a lot that to get. It wasn't economical to do it in the factories. It was more economical in the 70s to give it to the prisoners, or whenever we got faded jeans became a thing. To do. So that's how strong indigo is in colour.
Yeah, I remember all that, you know, acid wash, stone wash, all these different washes. But I'm just thinking, I mean, before that, jeans were a lot bluer, weren't they? They don't seem to be as blue now, and there's a lot of that they sell as, you know, the light sort of blue color. So I wonder if they've had some issues with the indigo, like the dye. Yeah,
well, Levi was, we're going off track, but Levi came out in the mid 19th century.
1800s, yeah.
and
Cowboys,
they
man.
dyed their denim with indigo, and
Mm.
they were very blue.
They were very blue. Yeah, they always were. You know, look at stuff from the 60s and that, and jeans were blue.
Yes. But then
Mm.
you look at our uniforms. We go back to the uniforms, of the civil wars. And you had
Yeah,
the blue. The
always
blue,
red and blue. Yeah.
yes. So the red and blue the indigo was what they used indigo for those woolen uniforms, because indigo took to silk apparently and wool like no man's business. It really clung to it. And so did this crimson beetle once that became more, once they could use that for their uniforms, wherever they came from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder where they
So
get green from. We'll have to look into that, right? For the
well,
military
I'm
green.
going to go into green. So that's the basis of our colours, but the colours came from everywhere, Campbell. So we're talking about the aristocrats again and the royalty and the upper lodge, but we talk about them because they use these very difficult dyes to produce and manufacture on very difficult fabrics that were very difficult and hard to manufacture at a time period when, again, we had not much of a population and everyone was doing, agriculture or domestic service. So, but then we go into people of the commoner, which we were called. The commoner, they got their dyes, they used more wool in their fabrics and a linen, which we'll go into linen and wool and that in another series, and a cotton. So when they wanted to dye their clothing, as the narrative tells us, because I'm just going by the narrative here, they used flowers, yellow flowers, blue flowers, any flower, and they used them, and they would boil the flowers, and they would also, to get a more intense colour, they would layer. So if they wanted to make yellow, they would use onion skin and turmeric. But to get turmeric, we need to get the spices from India.
Well, yeah, I guess that's, well, the Silk Road. How old's the Silk Road or the Spice Road?
15th century,
Yeah. But I
but
mean, it makes sense to
not
get colors
something,
from flowers, doesn't it? You
yes,
see a blue flower and you go, whoa, blue, right? Right. Like
yes, yes.
all these
But
beetle talk.
turmeric
Jeez.
would not be available for the common
Turmeric.
person, Campbell.
No, well, they would, I doubt
It was
they'd
a
be able to grow it in a lot of Europe.
Well, turmeric only came from India at
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stage.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
spice trade was very, very lucrative and very expensive. So there's no way that a common person would have turmeric.
Access
So
to turmeric,
they
yeah.
were obviously using onion skin and whatever yellow flowers or something they could get hold of. Bark apparently also was used for colours. But these were very, very pale colours. And for the
Mm.
common person, or even for right up until they discovered indigo, ward was used.
What's
WOAD, ward plant was used. And
never
it
heard of
produced
it?
a very light coloured blue, not a
Mm.
dark coloured blue. Dark coloured blue was like elusive to everyone at
Yeah,
one stage.
that's why it was royal blue, but it still doesn't explain if it's so expensive and hard to get why all the military uniforms had blue in them, right? Because they're like worn once, left on the battlefield, a lot of them. So it's weird.
So things just don't add up, do they? So then we go
No.
into, so a lot of the lighter dyes came and were used for textiles for the common people, were used from, more plant, more natural, whatever was around, they would use. It was the aristocrats and royalty and the elites that interest me more because of the fact of how these colours were produced and the amount of labour needed to produce it. So that leads me
Mm.
into what you call Venetian blue, Venetian purple,
Eastern purple, yes.
where I found quite a few different narratives because apparently Venetian purple has been around for quite a long time. Well, the Venetians apparently brought it over to the Mediterranean very, very early in the piece.
Yeah.
Uh, and then you read another story where Romans and Egyptians and all that also had this Phoenician purple, or I think it's called tyranny purple,
Tyrian.
Tyrian
Tyrian.
purple.
Yeah.
And when you go into that narrative, the reason how they found Tyrian purple was that because it's only found in the Mediterranean Ocean, it's a snail.
Yes.
And another story says that someone was walking, like BC times, someone was walking along along the sands of the ocean, the Mediterranean Ocean, and they with their dog, and the dog saw a snail, chewed on the snail, and when the owner told the dog off, its teeth were purple. And then all of a sudden, whoo, we've got purple. So what did he do? Did he run to someone and say, oh, my dog's teeth are purple? And that snail just produced it. Oh, great. Let's go get some snails and produce purple.
Mm.
The,
Yes.
the nuggets that you find in the narrative when you cross one narrative to another.
Well, yeah, that's
Ridiculous.
different to the Venetians bringing it in, right?
Isn't it?
I mean, that's the main narrative, or I guess it depends on which words you search, maybe, but that was
Yes.
supposed to be the basis of a big basis of how they got commerce and trade, and suddenly it was, the most wanted
Yes.
color anywhere, and people would pay all this money for it.
Yep.
It's a little bit
Yep.
weird.
It's just a
These
little
are the
bit weird,
Venetians.
Campbell.
Yeah.
So the Tyrian purple. So just to put this in perspective, 1 gram of pigment, you needed 10,000 sea snails that only came in a particular area of the Mediterranean Ocean. And I think it's somewhere near Morocco, somewhere around that area.
Yep.
So then you not only need to get out there with your ships and haul in a whole lot of snails that weren't just floating on the water. We need to go in the
Exactly.
water.
Yeah, yeah. They stick to rocks, man. They don't,
Yes,
swim.
yes. So, we've gone from a dog having purple teeth to people going out and finding this one place that they grew in the Mediterranean Sea. It's like the gold story, Campbell. They just knew where it was.
They got
It's just
directed, man.
telepathy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
I
woke
mean,
up one day.
it's crazy because, like, yeah, the dog story is clearly just silly, but how would they have found it in any thing, It's like
That's
it's
right.
just so weird. They're under the water, living on coral and rocks and stuff, and even if someone found one and did step on it and saw purple, from that to, oh, wow, this is a dye, let's go find more and see what we can do with it, is
It's
a
ridiculous.
big leap, isn't it?
It really is. And like everything, they expect us to believe it. And we did.
Mm,
We did for a very long time. Some of us would question it and then get shot down, yes, but we just went along with the narrative. So
mm.
10,000. So if you add up, Campbell, 1 gram equals 10,000 snails. It took kilos of dye on a ceremonial dress, not grams, but kilograms. So if you times 10,000 mullock snails times 1,000, you get 10 million mollusk snails required for one dress.
Yeah, which is crazy, right? Because the more they make, the less resource they would have. If they're going and taking that many snails, I mean, and how long would that even take to find
How long? Yeah, but
10 million?
we've got a video, Campbell, that we're going to watch in a minute, and it will show you the process. It was a horrific process. It was a long process, and it required a certain gland from the snail, not the snail, not the whole snail, a gland from that snail.
Okay. I mean, it makes you wonder why they wanted to use this color, right? Because clearly with all this work and all this stuff, there was a reason, they wanted that particular dye, right?
It again, what does wealth mean to anybody, Campbell? Wealth is what a
Well,
perception is, or an illusion of wealth. So if this was so hard to get, so hard to produce, and so rare, then whoever wore it would be hailed a
yeah,
god,
yeah.
literally a god. That was the power of the illusion of wealth.
Mm.
Whether they brought it or not is to be. That's what we're going to look at, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Where is it really coming from, I guess, or was it coming from? And I mean, it's
So
interesting that all the wars are blue against red, right? If you look back through history, it's always blue
yeah,
against red, and of course, mix blue and red
symbolism,
together, and you get purple, right? The
purple,
ones who, start the wars but ne are never actually in them. Both
very very
both
good, Campbell.
sides, right? They run both sides.
But also too, some of these uniforms were also very very similar. Some of them weren't red and blue against each other. Some were a light blue and a dark blue, so as to cause confusion to who they're actually killing, apparently.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, that's a good point, right? And I guess it's still in modern warfare, at least recent war, where everyone's in the same green,
Yes.
like
Yep.
apparently.
Yes. So what are we doing? Because even dye, which we'll get into later, becomes a weapon.
A
So
weapon.
yes, so dye is a weapon, if you want to look at it that way, even in these centuries, because it's a weapon of wealth, an illusion to
Mm.
make the common people feel inferior and of never ever, establishing the wealth of these people. And it's just flaunted. So it's
Mm.
a weapon in itself, weapon by illusion, as far as I'm concerned, just like many other things.
Well, yeah, like the whole world is an illusion. Like at least the 2D world is mostly an illusion.
Absolutely. So let's just get the mathematics in our head regarding that.
All
1
right.
gram of dye equals 10,000 snails, sea snails, which equivalates to kilograms of sea snails. So 10,000 mullock snails for one ceremonial dress times 10,000 is 10 million snails for one dress, to dye
Mm.
one dress a deep purple. And it wasn't, there was a lot of purple used in the elite's time, not just, well, mainly for royalty, but anyone that was of higher aristocratics would be able to have a purple dress.
Mm.
So you add that purple to the story, which we'll go into next week, of velvet and how that's made, and silk, and it just gets even more ridiculous.
Ah, it's mad. What is going on? Are there just factories underneath our feet producing all this stuff just based on nothing that they tell us?
Well, where were the volumes processed, and where were the warehouses and the dye houses and the workshops and the industrial scale
Mm.
required, even just to make a few purple fabrics, Campbell,
Yeah.
just purple alone?
Yeah, right. And that's after they've made the actual fabric and before they turn it into these amazing, dresses and suits and things, right? So it's only one little part of a
It's one
massive
little part.
production, right? Yeah.
That's why I have to do this in a series, because the pigment is one little part of the
Mm.
puzzle. And like I said, then you go into the fabric, which is another part of the puzzle. And then you go into lace, which is another part of the puzzle. And the needles and the threads, it's all part of this puzzle. And then once we put it all together and we see the picture becomes a lot clearer, Campbell.
Right.
And you can look at it whichever way you want. You can give it, you can give it an evaluation on what's been, presented here, on how you think has happened, or how it's happened, or why it's happened, or if it even happened in the first place.
Yes. Yeah, well, this is the thing. All we've got to go off is their stories, right? His story. It's like, I don't know, like, do they still make this out of the snails? Do you know?
Yes.
They say they do.
Yes, but it's not on a production level. There's only one or two. This one what we're going to look at. There is one man who has gone back and found out the process of this pigment, and he does it himself. But when you watch it, Campbell, you do not want to make this colour.
Yeah. All right. So are we putting the video on now?
Yep.
Is
It's
this a good
11
time?
minutes of our time, but it's worth it because it puts all this into perspective.
And is this how natural indigo is made?
No,
Or
no.
why Tyrian purple dye is so expensive?
Yes,
That one.
I think so, hopefully. I
Got
can't
that
remember.
one.
I sent you
That's
so
the one.
many, Campbell.
Okay. Right. Here we go.
Yep.
Oh.
Making authentic Tyrian purple dye starts here,
Oh.
with extracting a murex snail gland. It takes nearly 45 kilograms of these snails to produce a single gram of pure Tyrian purple extract. It's a painstaking and pungent process. And the result? This single gram of dye that can fetch nearly $3,000. By comparison, 5 grams of a synthetic version sells for under $4. Tyrian purple can be used to dye clothes or create paints. In the ancient world, it was so rare that only royalty could afford to wear clothes dyed with it. Even today, at such an astronomical price, Tyrian purple pigment is mostly a collector's item. So, what makes real Tyrian purple so hard to make, and why is it so expensive? This is Mohammed Ghassan Nouira. He's been making Tyrian purple dye in his home in Tunisia for 15 years. Today, Ghassan is one of a handful of producers in the world bringing this ancient dye back to life. Ghassan learned how to make this dye through an excruciating process of trial and error. Because there's no instruction manual, he reconstructed the techniques he uses from 1st century texts.
Oh my god, I must say that I have gone through a lot of failures. The historical texts about the process of making Tyrian purple are very rare and are quite vague, so you have to start everything from scratch and learn everything on your own.
To make the extract, Ghassan must navigate a complex process, and it's this extensive labour that accounts for much of the final price. The part of the murex snail that contains the pigment is called the hyperbranchial gland.
The good thing is that the gland is located right under the shell, which helps a little bit in the extraction.
It's the only part of the snail used to make Tyrian purple, and each gland contains only a few drops of pigment. But before he can extract the gland, Ghassan has to wash, scrub, and sort the snails by size.
You don't really want all of this mud and sand to interfere with the dye when you crush the shell and expose the gland. So this is the first step, and it's a very important step. You really have to clean your snails very, very well.
Ghassan can now extract the gland from the clean snails. If he hammers each shell too lightly, it'll take too long. But if he hits it too hard, he'll crush the gland. It took Ghassan 2 years to learn how to do this efficiently.
And of course, the snail is not wasted, then it will be cooked for dinner. Everything is basically recycled.
To make the extract, Ghassan first macerates the fresh glands in cold water and lets them ferment in an airtight container. Once the glands release their colorant, Ghassan gently washes and filters the mixture to separate the dye from the flesh. This is the first of 6 separate rounds of purification necessary to make a pure Tyrian purple extract. Now Ghassan can dry the pigment mixture. He applies it to a sheet of glass and lets it dry under the sun. He uses glass because it won't absorb any of the valuable pigment.
So these glands have been drying for 3 days. They are half dry now. They're still malleable, as you can say. This is the pure colorant, or more or less pure.
Once the pure colorant mixture is dried, he scrapes it off the glass with a razor, making sure to get every last bit.
And the whole process, from the liquid colorant up until the dried pure powder, the whole mass will have lost at least 98% of its weight.
The dry pigment is now purified 5 more times in a grinding and sieving process to remove any detritus. The nearly 100 pounds of murex snails are finally transformed into 1 gram of pure Tyrian purple extract. And acquiring enough snails is another challenge, an expensive one. Ghassan can spend hundreds of dollars sourcing the snails he needs for his dye. That's because finding these snails requires experienced fishers. One of the fishers Ghassan works with is Salim Ben Milad. He harvests murex snails from Solomon Beach. Like Ghassan, Salim and his team have perfected their technique over time.
بالطبيعة لهنا صعيب تحديد المواقع برشا تحت الماء، راهو البحر كبير برشا كما تعرف البحر كبر ويلزمك تعرف البقايع وتقمر يعني وتشد في مخك. وحتى في الأحجار يعني تحت الماء فما أحجار معين يحبوا.
It can take Salim 4 hours to find the right snails, or he can dive for a whole day to no avail.
بالطبيعة أهم حاجة احنا يعني في خدمتنا إنه يبدأ المناخ باهي يعني وطقس مزيان احنا نقولوا وراكح ويبدأ الرؤية في الماء باهية يعني واضحة.
The bloodmouth snail is particularly difficult to catch and requires Salim to dive 15 meters deep, which makes it expensive. And if the weather is consistently bad, the price goes up even more. Sometimes, conditions force Salim and his team to go a whole month without fishing. But it's out of their control.
اللي يستعملوا اللي يطلبوا غسان للبوغرنو هذا اللي خرجنا منه كما اللي شفنا منه طول.
It's dangerous for the snails too, which are highly sensitive to climate change. Since the early 1970s, the population of murex snails has declined due to temperature changes in the water and overharvesting.
We have to be very cautious not to be engaged in overharvesting to make sure that the small specimens are back into the sea to preserve the species. So this is why it takes a lot of time.
And careful management of the snail population is vital, as Ghassan and his divers attempt to revive Tunisia's thousands-year-old dye-making tradition. Ghassan doesn't use all the fresh snails to make extract. He reserves some to dye fabric directly. This time, he mixes the snail glands with water and a reducing agent and lets them ferment. The mixture goes from a colourless liquid to green before it turns purple. Finding the right pH balance in this step is crucial. If it's too acidic, the wool may burn, and if it's too basic, it may cause the wool to felt.
So now we're just monitoring the pH. It's about 8, which is perfect.
This is also the moment when the soluble dye is the most light sensitive. Ghassan must cover the dye vat immediately to avoid too much exposure to light. Too much light can turn the dye from purple to blue, destroying a week's worth of work. When the material has soaked for the appropriate amount of time, Ghassan lifts the vat lid, exposing the mixture to light and air. This allows the mixture to oxidize.
And this is how the color will gradually start to develop.
But one round of vat dyeing won't always do the trick. Like with this silk scarf.
It took me like 8 months to produce and it required like 800 pounds of fresh snails, and this is still not completed.
And it's not always guaranteed that the colour will come out the same shade.
Historically speaking, there isn't a single hue or shade of Tyrian purple. It's a range of shades that ranges from the color of clotted blood to the color of red purple.
This range is the result of mixing 3 different subspecies of murex snails. Hexaplex trunculus, which produces a violet blue colour, Bolinus brandaris, which secretes the colour of clotted blood, and the bloodmouth, or Stramonitor hemastoma, which releases a rich red-purple colour. Tyrian purple dye dates back to the Bronze Age and is named after the Phoenician city of Tyre. Some historians believe it was produced as early as the 21st century BC. Ancient civilisations from Phoenicia to the Carthaginian and Roman empires prospered by producing and trading this dye. One of the production sites was Menings, on the island of Jerba, which is now an archaeological site.
لأنها مادة ثمينة جدا، وبما أنها مادة ثمينة فقد قرر الأباطرة الرومان في بداية الإمبراطورية أن لا يقع استعماله إلا من طرف الوجهاء حتى يقع التفريق بين الأشخاص.
A text from the 4th century states that a single pound of Tyrian purple dye costs 3 pounds of gold. But production of this dye came to a screeching halt in the 15th century after the fall of the Byzantine Empire.
دراسة الزيت والزيتونة في أفريقيا الشمالية في القديم، ثم دراسة الأرجوان، هذا السمر المتاجرة به، والرخام إلى آخره، كل ما هو علاقة بالتجارة والموانئ.
Ali says he's grateful that Ghassan is reviving this culturally valuable dye so Tunisians can reconnect with their ancestry. Ghassan learned about the dye at the age of 14 and was enthralled by its history in Carthage. Over a decade later, he found a murex snail on the shore, oozing purple.
My old passion for red purple came rushing from its deep slumber, and I really had this revelation. And this is how my adventure for reviving this legendary dye started.
Now, he hopes to ramp up his production, offering more shades of pigment.
Well, of course, my dream is to enlarge this project and to create an old-fashioned dye factory and to produce more. But as I said, the main concern should always be to preserve the species, because if there is no murex, there is no dye.
Interesting, isn't it? How many nuggets were in that one?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they got a dye for it. I never thought about that. You know, it's pretty hard to see underwater unless you got some kind of mask on. And, 15 meters down.
Yes.
Jeez. Hard work if you can get it. I find it mind-boggling because he also said that it's an elusive recipe. Yeah.
And production.
Well, yeah.
Couldn't find anything hardly. He had to put it together himself to some extent. And then you had the Tyrian gentleman towards the end that said that production stopped all of a sudden because the recipe had been lost and they couldn't reproduce it. I mean, how many times do you hear that, Campbell?
Well, yeah, I know, right? Even NASA say that with the moon, but they're going back.
Yes, they can't fly to the moon anymore because they lost the technology. Oh,
it's
far
like,
out.
How did they work out the whole process, though? It's one thing to see a little bit of purple coming out, but then to, I guess, they'd say enough time, right? And they'd work it out, but you'd have to really, really, really want that color to go through all that, because, I mean, it must have cost, pounds and pounds and kilograms of gold and all these snails and just to try and work out how to get. It's like the mining story, right? Sure, you find ores and that, but you don't know what that will turn into. And all this work is put into it to, so they just keep going, right, until they get something that they never knew existed before they started. It's a weird story.
It is a weird. How do you start something if you don't know? Where does it coming from? Like I said before, do you wake up one morning and think, oh shit, I know how to get purple all of a sudden? I got, a download last night from Source that said, oh, you'll get it from this snail, but you have to go 15 meters under the water and then you have to do this, this and this. It's just not logical.
And you need 10 million to make a dress, but don't take too many or you'll wipe out the colonies.
The colonies, absolutely.
Right.
And don't hit the shell too hard or you'll destroy the gland.
Yeah.
And you have to do the process, what is it, 6 times?
Mm. I mean, and they must have eaten a lot of snails, a lot of sea snails back then.
Yes. So the whole point of our exercise here is the questioning, the autodidactic of this whole system, Campbell.
Mm.
And the production required for this. So we can't even farm this. We have to dive, and now they have to, because of climate change, because it affects this snail. They can't go down there and get too many now. So it's a very, very, very boutique production. But it's not just that, it's the process. Like he was even saying, too much light and it won't die. You'll lose it. So you have to have it covered. So if we're mass producing 10 million snails, just for instance, 10 million snails required glands required to produce one dress. What are we cooking it all in 6 times? What are we sieving those every process? How are we sieving that process? How are we putting it in a vat big enough to keep at a temperature that it required for the process to dye the fabric?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big process, right? And yeah, where were the warehouses, and did they have windows? Because they didn't have electric lights. How are they keeping it out of the sunlight? But I mean, why? Why? Because they didn't know that they would end up with this amazing dye until they'd gone through and worked out this whole process.
Yep.
That's what confuses me. Is like, why would you keep doing it, right? It's like us finding a mussel or something going, oh, that's green or something, and then spending years trying to work out how to turn it into a dye when we have no idea if it will be a dye or not.
Exactly. I mean, you can understand the process with plants, Campbell, because plants and herbs were in our daily lives all the time at that particular time. You had herbalists, you've had alchemists, because a lot of this has to do with alchemy as well. So because you're processing one organic material and changing it into another material.
Yeah.
So there's alchemy involved here. So you can understand that with people that are in agriculture or are dealing with plants and herbs and trees and bark and everything all the time. They're probably experimenting. The mind is autodidactic. It wants to find things out. So you've got you've made a bit of cloth, and you think, well, I don't like that natural colour of beige or whatever it is. I wonder if I put this and this together, and if it can produce, because it's got a beautiful yellow flower, or it's got this. So I can understand that process.
Yeah. Well, all they're doing is boiling it, right? They're getting flowers, chucking them in a pot, boiling it and throwing some material in and seeing what happens. And then once they see it, then they refine it, right, to make it richer. But exactly, that makes sense. That's a step-by-step process. But all this,
And if you're making herbal tea also, Campbell, like you're adding chamomile or you're adding a bark or you're adding something, and you see the colour changing. I mean, when I make my teas, I see beautiful oranges and I can see different colours when I make a tea. It depends how long I brew it for and how hot the water is, because some teas you can't put boiling hot water to the herbs. You have to put some of them need a lukewarm temperature. So there is a process to all of this, and obviously if you're going to put that in a clear container, you can see it's produced a colour. So the natural step forward would be, I might be able to dye some clothing with that and make a pretty colour. Fully understandable, and that to me, like you said, makes so much sense as a progression of something, an evolution of something. But to do a process from a gland of a snail to that extent, I'm sorry, I don't believe that story whatsoever.
No, it sounds definitely like the information's come from somewhere else. I mean, it's just a weird story though, right? Like, it's just, weird. Like, is that the only
Oh, there's
thing
more.
on Earth that can produce that color? I mean, that would seem weird as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. But there's so many more. That's just the main one that we hear about. So then you've got, like I said, the Mexican beetle, and then the beetles before that in Europe that they used. You know, same process. It's a long process, Campbell. We're using the flesh of an insect to produce a colour. So we have to that cacti. We needed a lot of cacti, and like I said, the narrative gives us little nuggets because if something's military guarded, that tells me it is scarce in that time period. And it is only allowed to be used for certain applications if that was what really happened.
Yeah, well, yes, if that's what
What
really
are we
happened.
really protecting with military force?
Yeah.
Look at it a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's I don't know, it's just a bit mind-boggling, the whole thing, right?
I know your expressions, Campbell.
It's because there was so much of it in clothes, right? I mean, you even look at one country, if there's, back in the day, there would have been what, 4, 5, 10 queens and princesses. If they all had one dress, then suddenly you're looking at what, 1 billion snails for one little region.
Yes.
Let alone all of
If one
Europe.
woman or one gentleman wore a big jacket or a pair of those big bloomy pants made out of velvet, you're still looking at a lot of snails required to make that dye. Because even that man said, you're not guaranteed that you don't get the full pigment, even when you dry it and put it on glass and as careful as you are, you lose 90%, Campbell, he said.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it's a weird one. All right, let's keep going though.
I love it. I love it. Everyone, have you seen the comments? People say, "Oh, we just love watching Campbell's expressions."
Because today we can make all these, and they say they're synthetic dyes, but what is synthetic, man? That's basically just chemistry, which is alchemy.
Yes.
And there was so much work and effort put into this apparently just to see what came out.
Yes.
Why didn't they go down any other routes? Why didn't they start working with lavender and other purple flowers, or something?
Well, they did. They actually use for yellow. They ended up finding out that the yellow mulberry berry.
Yeah.
They could use that to give a more intense colour. So I'm tipping they might even have used a mulberry, that really deep crimson mulberry. But to what extent did the richness come from? It's not the same sort of dye, Campbell. It's not a dye that doesn't fade.
Yeah, exactly. This one may have held a lot more, but I mean, berries are a very good point, right? If you're eating berries and you spill a drop, it stains, man. It goes straight in.
Yes.
They got red and blues and purples, so that's obvious. Why wasn't that worked on more? And then they, working on something that would hold the color rather than, diving for
this
snails.
extensive production. Yes, but I think it's where we're going to go to. These colours we're talking about are the colours that just never faded. They got better with time, and they weren't affected by anything, the environment or anything. Whereas the mulberries maybe and the other colours that were also used were duller, or they had to layer, which layer means they had to put it in that dye, re-dye it, put in the dye, re-dye it. So the process to get a different richness of colour, but it faded. That's the understanding I'm starting to get. It didn't hold its colour, whereas these colours in our paintings was a time period that can't be reproduced, Campbell, which beckons where we're going.
Yes.
So we'll go to green. Actually, we won't go to green. We'll go to black.
Black. Okay, I don't have anything black here, do I? Making cochineal red, indigo, purple. All right, let's talk about black.
Okay.
What was black called? Say.
Sorry?
what was black called back in the day? Was it started with SAB, I think. Anyway, I'll remember.
Sabe.
Yeah, something like that. Say it's half of it.
Saber, it's the same as the
So
fur.
I'm thinking
I used to work in a
Sabian,
fur.
but I don't think it
It's
is.
S-A. Oh, it's a Sabian. Yeah, it's the same as a fur that they used in that. Because fur's another thing, Campbell. I worked for Stephen Datner Furs for many years in Hoddle Street. Hoddle Street. In a very old building, and I never even thought about it when I was a receptionist for them, and then I sold retail. Sable, that's it. Yep, the Sable, yes.
Okay, got it.
So we did leather and fur. That's another thing I haven't even looked into because, Sable was as a fur, was very, very desirable. And the fur, we had the Datner building was, from memory, it was 3 stories from ground level, and then we had 2 basements, 2 levels down. And the amount of storage of fur skins down there, Campbell, and leather.
Yeah, right.
Yes, so that's another one. Anyway, so black. So for luxury fabrics like silk or wool, layering was required for a more deeper black. So they would start with a blue, and at that time it would have been the Ward, W-O-A-D, and then the indigo colour started coming into Europe around the 17th century. And then they dried it, and then they overlaid it with mudder, which is a red mulberry dye made out of mulberries, with elm as a moderate. Now, elm, I can't find anything on elm. Every time I look up elm, I get aluminium. But it's not spelt as aluminium, it's spelt as elm. And elm was like a regulator or something that they put in with these dyes, maybe to set the dyes, I don't know. But I cannot find it. You may be able to find it. Every time I did a search on elm, I got aluminium and other stupid things like Star Wars, something to do with Star Wars.
Star Wars, right.
And rich minerals like oak wood or logwood, and then iron salts. So by the 16th century,
yes,
you'll love this, green walnut shells were found. They were crushed and left for days to rot, and then they created a black dye powder once they dried. Logwood was introduced in the 16th century from the Americas and produced an intense black if combined with the metallic moderates, which I'm thinking is the elm. So it must have been the iron salts. Maybe that's what elm was.
Well, so elm wasn't to do with elm tree, no?
No, ALM.
Oh, ALM.
That's why I kept getting aluminium. So okay. I'd say it's an iron salt of some sort.
Yeah.
That was added with it.
Yeah.
So they could make black dye with the green walnut shells. And then logwood was introduced in the 16th century from the Americas, which produced an intense black if combined with the moderates, which is the iron minerals, which I think is elm. Then in some places, if you were lucky enough and you had bog mud,
yeah,
or iron water, in some regions, cloth was actually dipped into the iron-rich bog mud, and it created a very long-lasting black.
Yeah, well, that would also point to, that the elm as being some kind of iron.
Yes.
Mineral.
So then when I was looking, hang on, and then I'll read where other parts of black came from earlier. So you had lampshade. Well, this is a carbon-based black. So it's what's called lampshade black. A burning linseed oil and resin in a lamp was collected, like the smoke or the soot. and put on clean metal and put in a clean metal surface of like a metal pan. That was some inks that came, that's where we got some black inks, but they also used it for pigment for dyes earlier.
From soot, from burning oil.
From burning linseed oil.
Okay. You'd have to burn a lot of oil, wouldn't you? Like, what?
I know. This is why you go, what? It's like, for our minds, it's just like, it just feels like bullshit.
No, it doesn't make any sense unless AI was running it and had all this backup data, but to a human mind, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And
no,
apart from the fact that why would you go to all this bloody bother,
trouble.
Right? Just to say, well, I'm better than you because look at the color of my robe. It's very Alite kind of behavior, isn't it?
It is. So then we have bone and ivory black. So charring animal bones or ivory, I don't know how much ivory was around before the 16th century, but obviously ivory was around. In a sealed airtight container, when it was put on heat, you put it in the sealed and airtight container to prevent it from turning to ash. So whatever it alchemized into in that airtight container over heat, it charred those bones. So then you could obviously, I don't know, add something to it to make it into a paste or make it into a powder to make black. Yeah. So again, producing a deep lasting black dye was complex, and here we go again, a very expensive process for only the elites. So black was considered a colour of very high status and power. Black was achieved by natural materials, relying on an iron tanning, carbon-based soot, and layering of other colours. So it's a combination of a lot of these processes.
Yeah. Which makes a bit more sense. It sounds like they found something that's black and then it wasn't black enough or didn't hold, so they started adding to the mixture, which, I can follow that.
Okay. So when we talk about an iron tanning, which is what they were using along as the iron salts, the iron tanner was made from a special ingredient. Here we go again.
Okay.
So oak gale was a tumour-like growth on oak trees that were collected for their high tanning concentration. So we're going around oak trees looking for a tumour-like growth, scraping it off and collecting it, so then we can crush it and make it into powder. Then that powder was combined with iron sulfate, or what was called copperas, which was used in green dye as well, and boiled in urine, Campbell, if it was available, or water if it wasn't. These created a durable, dark, but acid compound for tannin, for colours.
Yeah. Yeah. So the urine sounds like it was like a fastener, like a fixing agent. Yeah.
So that gives the old empty your buckets out the window or what piss in this trough a different meaning.
Yeah.
Because I know they use urine for a lot of things.
People would be paying you for it, right? Yeah, they did use
the
urine
gold.
for a lot of things. Yeah, yeah. Maybe they just wanted our urine. Who knows what they were using it for?
Maybe.
They just wanted our stem cells.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, yeah. It's just a weird, right? Especially when you look at history and they're like, everyone was peasants and the kings had no toilets, so they were shitting in the stairwells. There was disease, there was, everything was unhygienic and muddy and all this stuff, war, but they're spending all this time and effort on creating a certain color.
Yes. Makes no sense, does it, Campbell?
No. you know, maybe if they were living in luxury and had technology and had all this money and it was just they had nothing else to do, would make a little bit more sense, but not with the conditions we're told were going on.
And don't forget all the animals and everything we're told that are around, you know, that are shitting and pissing everywhere. And, you know, no one had really any proper area. The animals just lived in little stables and, you know, they were everywhere in the streets and, you know, everything stunk. And this is why vaccines had to start because, you know, we've got animal urine and, you know, people are getting sick from the animals and blah, blah, blah. The conditions were so unhygienic.
Yeah. I like the one with the toilets. They just built a little box off the side of their house and started shitting on the people walking underneath them. I mean, it's some of the stories they come up with. It's just
so there's an irony right there, Campbell. So we're again parallel narratives. So we're pissing and shitting in the streets. We're throwing buckets out the window of piss pots. We've got little side bits that we shit on, which goes on to people. We've got animals that urinate and shit everywhere in the streets and everything. To the extent it became so unhygienic, we've got, you know, fleas coming from rats and, you know, all sorts of unsavoury conditions that are making us very ill. We've got, you know, we've got
no
bloody
sewer systems.
We've got nothing. There's no real. Well, apparently, there's no sewer systems, and you know, people have got venereal diseases, so they got pox all over their faces and their bodies, and everything's melting and pus and everything else. So, and yet we've got these, you know, industries that are making these dyes that no one can reproduce again, and they're just so wanted and needed and for wealth and status and, you know, just to walk down the street in a dress just to show the paupers how wealthy I am and the next Viscount, you know, oh my God, that person must have a lot of money. They're wearing black or, you know, indigo or red or purple. I mean,
and wearing the dress down the street that's covered in crap.
In shit, right? Apparently horse shit and
humans and all this stuff. And I mean, very, very labour intensive, right? We're told, you know, 95% were just peasants, you know, with sticks bloody growing wheat for the king. But I mean, just one of these industries, right, would have taken tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of workers. So why is that never mentioned?
There's nothing recorded in anywhere. It would have taken so many ships and the transportation and everything too, Campbell.
And the infrastructure, you know, all the warehousing, the factories,
warehousing,
it would have been there, right? So why is there no mention of it?
So we either getting lied to about all the wars and the death and the plagues of population. Wow. There was hardly any population here, or we've come from a very high population, a very organised society, a very wealthy society, like I keep saying, that have been infiltrated. I mean, we can see the infiltration now. It's so easy to see. You can see the takeover of countries so easily.
Happening again right now, or they're trying to. Yeah, man. Well, we've been invaded, of course, right? And after probably, you know, the last cataclysm, right, which looks like it might have been an ice age, water. But yeah, I mean,
but an infiltration
you just got to look at the people ruling now, right, to understand that they are the invaders. I mean, all they do is send us off to war, rip us off, you know, give us less and less quality, put poison in all the food and the water and the. I mean, hello.
And dangle a carrot. Yeah, if you put in the effort, you can be a millionaire like me.
And grind. Just grind harder. You're not grinding enough.
Yep. Yeah, so none of this makes any sense to me, Campbell, along with our buildings. This is all in a time period. Again, I think it's all connected. It's all connected. It is a different time period that we have not been told about.
Yeah. Pre-reset, the last reset, it was a completely different
totally different narrative.
I mean, we've got all the maps, you know, 1500s covered in cities that, you know, how did they build any of these? All the star forts and then all the mud floods. I mean, it's,
But I don't even think we need, like, if you look at our last 100 years or 200 years, Campbell, and what we've seen and what we're, you know, what's really unveiling again at the moment with the activities in governments and you know, the powers to be, and they're not even the ones that we even know about. We don't need a natural disaster we need a natural disaster to set division and chaos, yes, in like you're seeing with our weather patterns. But it doesn't take much to infiltrate governments or pull strings in all sorts of places of power to reset our whole financial system, which is happening at the moment. So it doesn't take a whole, natural disaster or non-natural disaster for it to happen. You just need infiltration of ways of thinking and society thinking different ways and turning against each other to, totally take control.
Totally. I mean, look how fast the whole trans agenda came up, right? Like, what was that? Maybe a couple of decades of work in the universities, and now we've still got millions of these crazy people
But it's
who
nothing new.
tell you men
It's
can
nothing
have babies. No, exactly. They
look
did
at
this
them
back
all
in the 20s, and it was a big thing in Germany, and
but not just that, Campbell. You just look at these paintings and you see some of the clothing, and it's just so transgender. I mean, the 16th, the Renaissance, all that period. It was just, you don't know who was male and who was female, even back then.
Yeah. Well, definitely. It was definitely different. The men were wearing wigs and makeup and high
High heel
heels.
shoes.
Yeah.
And who invented knitting? Apparently, the sailors. The sailors were knitting. They were crocheting.
Yeah, right. I did
In
not
those
know
periods.
that.
Yes, it was never women.
Yeah,
It was the men.
Mm.
So,
Well, crocheting can be manly. What are you trying to say? Sorry to all our male crocheters out there.
well, men were doing a lot of that stuff apparently out in the ships. Apparently, so that's where that knitting was first invented by men. And when you saw in the last video, men were the ones started wearing high heel shoes. Women couldn't wear them; they kept falling over, but men were quite happy in their high heels. So, what's going on there?
It's just, I mean, but all of this stuff, right? Like fashion, like we're talking about, it's all introduced, right? And it's, can see it so easily now that it's all, the elites put it out there and everyone wants to try and copy them.
Yes, it's all about copying. That's the biggest word, I think. It's all about that. What is it when you get a machine that copies something? What's that called?
A replicator, a photocopier.
A replicator. So everything's replication from something else. And like I said, in the last one, they're living at what we had. They've replicated everything, and now we're trying to replicate them. It's the same loop we're in, Campbell.
Yeah, and they just keep changing it and going around, right? Like,
yeah,
disco used to be the coolest thing you could do, right? Yeah. And now it's just laughable. Like they build something up and then they just flip it and then bring in, the new romantic era or whatever, into the music, and then that changes into hair bands, and then they're out and it's all grunge,
Yeah.
And people just keep buying it and buying it. And every time you do that, you've got to go out and spend all this money, right? Got to get new clothes, new music, new this, new that. Go and
who are the idols now for the clothing? You either got the fashion industry now, which, you've got your fashion parades, which, that sets the scene for a season. And then you've got, your idols in music. They set the fashion trend as well. So the young kids want to look just like them. So it really, we're just always looking up to someone instead of just ourselves.
Yeah. It says in all religious texts, something along the lines of don't worship false idols. And what are, especially Christians and other religious people are out there doing this as well.
Yes.
Hello, don't worship false idols. Don't worship idols at all, right?
That's it.
The
exactly.
idol is you, yeah.
Yep. So we've got green. Now, green is another very interesting one.
Cool.
So in the early times, green was devised again from turmeric, like a layering. You'd start with a yellow, and I've got some photos of green.
Yeah, I'm just grabbing them now.
So the story is that you start with, again, turmeric and onion skins to start a yellow, and then you over dye with a blue, and you just keep layering from batch to batch. Yeah. But it was a very tricky dye. This is an early Renaissance green. This is an original green. So we've got two types of green that we're going to talk about. This is an organic green, apparently, that was used, that would be made from the layering system. So it's a very, very tricky one to use because you had to use different colours as well as use leaves, green leaves. So grass was used, nettle was used, irises were used, heather and broom, as well as metallic pigments of copper oxidization. So when copper oxidizes, it produces that green.
Yeah.
So they use that as well as the iron sulfates that we were talking about earlier, the copperaris. Then they called it verdigris, which produces a vibrant green created by exposing copper to acid, which is a vinegar. So what you're showing here is old recipes for making certain greens and the process.
Oh, okay. So is that alum again? Alum, I wonder what it is.
Yeah, well, I think it's more that tanning. So the alum, I think, may have been a broad name by the thinking of it now, which is maybe that copper acid being exposed to vinegar. Then this green, you've got the recipe up there to make that. But green was a very, green didn't hold colour. It wasn't consistent from batch to batch, no matter how they tried. So that's why they would produce lots of different greens depending on how they would make the green and what organic matter they use and metallic matter.
Then, how did Robin Hood wear green? What's going on? Did they lie to us? What was he, the 1200s or something? He had very dark green on.
Yep.
Apparently.
So, so the colour became, again, very expensive because the batches were never consistent and they were always tricky to make. So, again, it became a colour that only the aristocrats could wear.
Yeah, man. So a cone head. Look at that head. What is going on there?
And that's meant.
That's a female, dude, right?
Yeah, it's meant to be a female.
Oh, it's meant to be a female. Okay, it looks like a dude, but yeah, with all these ringlet things going on.
Yep.
And a dress. Okay. Oh, Jane, Duchess of Gordon, nee Maxwell.
So the vinaigrous colour, green, was a vibrant green and was created by exposing copper to acid. The copperas green, which was used in conjunction with other dyes and materials to produce a very dark olive toned green, which was the iron sulfate that was added. And again, alum was used to help dyes adhere to fabric and other substance. I can't find anything on alum.
Yeah,
this is another.
I did a bit of a search, but I didn't get much come up.
No, so there's another organic dress that was used by layering to produce that colour. Yeah. Again, with copper.
I've got here alum in ancient Egypt. Ancient civilizations, Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq used alum to fix the red dye matter to textiles. Also known as alaharam in large quantities from Egypt. Alum in China. Okay, well, I found one site. Alum in the Middle Ages. Well, there you go. There's something on it. All right, sorry. 1775, silk dress.
Yes.
God.
So that's a natural green. So that would have been, by the sounds of it, a big process. So they would have used the iron sulfate with that. They would have used copper and vinegar, as well as nettle and other plants to make that very dark green. So there you go, nettle for a lively green, and common and broom and heather.
Well, that wouldn't have been much fun picking nettles. Geez, imagine working with them.
No, but also to get the copper, you had to use. You need a lot of copper to produce the acid to make it, exposing it with the vinegar to make it that green look.
So now you've got mining involved, right?
Yes, you've got mining involved.
Look at that workmanship. That's crazy, right?
Oh, it's just beautiful, isn't it? And look how vibrant it is, Campbell, and that's taken out of a museum.
Yeah,
it hasn't
1775.
Yes, it hasn't lost its colour. Even though we're told it was a very hard colour to do because consistency was really tricky. They had to add all sorts of things to get a colour.
And this is straight from plants.
Yes.
Which is supposed to be the ones that fade. So they clearly could do it. It's all to do with fixing agents and stuff. But
yes.
And that like what I said, makes more sense than hunting down snails and beetles and all this kind of weirdness.
Absolutely. But also, too, they had to be done in certain temperatures, too. And they used, apparently the eye was much more reliable for that. This is a paler green. So that's grass green.
Grass green. Right. And then this.
And that's another old recipe from the 18th century of how to do a green dye for grass, I think. I can't read it.
Yep. Boil 3/4 of a pound of alum, 1/2 pound of tartar, interesting, into quarts of sharp ley for an hour. What does that mean? And in it soak the thread for 3 hours, keeping it hot all the while. How to dye it yellow, so in different ways. 8 pounds of broom. So even then, right, 1 pound of marigold. So there's still
a lot.
Yeah, it's still quite a bit. But I mean, you can grow flowers, and with flowers and plants, they're native to you, right? It's not like you're bringing cactuses from Mexico to France and
yes,
things like this. So that's that's producible. I would think it's definitely much more producible than diving for 1 billion snails 15 meters down with no mask.
Exactly.
Oh. That's crazy. All right, so there's a few more. So if you want those, screenshot that, guys, and go and start dyeing your own clothes. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So we've gone from if you can go back to the green dresses, I want to show you, because we've gone from the organic green dresses, which, like I said, it was easy. We can verify that was you could probably do that, but it would take a lot of work to get the batches right, and it's labour intensive. So if you go through them, back a little bit. Oh, keep going.
Dude.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, this one. Yeah, okay.
No, that's an organic one too. Go the other way, sorry.
That's the first one. This one, that's organic too, wasn't it?
Yes. Is there the arsenic ones? Because we're going into arsenic green now.
Arsenic green. That's grass green. Let me see. I might have another folder.
Okay, maybe I didn't send the arsenic green.
Red beetles and indigo. Is that green?
No, we'll go into indigo in a minute. So what happened was in the 19th century, because green was so elusive, apparently, because it couldn't be done on a major scale because of, like you just read in the natural organic green, it needed a lot of processes. And if you're going to produce that on a mass scale, of course, you're going to need a lot of flowers, a lot of nettle, a lot of heather, a lot of iris, things like that. And again, you need a factory of some scale to be producing these dyes, because you've got to hold all the materials and you've got to do the process of the materials. And because it was so labour intensive, needed a lot of product, and it wasn't consistent batch from batch, so you're never going to get an even colour. Again, it was a colour for the aristocrats. So,
yeah, well, I mean, you'd have to dry it all as well, right, properly.
Yes.
Because you can't just whack it on a table, because it would just all, mould up.
And if it rained, you'd be in deep trouble.
Yeah, so it would all have to be dried properly and then stored in like special, humidifier rooms, basically, but where the water couldn't get
greenhouse. Like the big crystal palaces.
Well, maybe they were growing. Yeah, maybe that was for dyes. Who knows? I definitely think they were greenhouses of some kind.
Well, a greenhouse person, you know, was the architect. So, you know, the little nuggets are there, aren't they?
Yeah, Francis gosh, what was his surname? But yeah, that guy who was a gardener, basically.
Yes. But even that, going back to that purple, I mean, they had to have calm weather to go under the 15 metres under the water. They couldn't go in certain times of the year because it was just too dangerous. So,
and the same kind of thing, right? Like you would have to harvest that all very quickly because you bring a snail out and just store it, it's going to start breaking down.
Yes.
Almost instantly, right?
Yes,
Especially
so the
because there's
logistics.
so much water, you know, they're from the sea, right? They're full of water, you know.
The logistics is it's mind-boggling.
Mm.
So because green was so elusive and a lot of people love the colour green, we've got a scientist that accidentally comes across making green from arsenic experiments. And his name was, I have to spell his last name, Scheelles, Schrells?
Schwells, yeah, something like that. Sounds German.
So he invented, apparently, arsenic green in the 19th century. And it was called Schrells green or arsenic green or London green, which was like a greeny yellow colour. And it was very unstable pigment and it would easily fade or oxidise. So then by 1840, you had Paris green, and Paris green was a deep emerald colour and was much longer lasting, but both pigments degraded with moisture and also gave arsenic gases. So we're coming, and we had London purple, which was also made out of arsenic, as well as some yellows. So we've got the synthetic dyes starting to come through, but they're made from arsenic. So arsenic became very, very popular for children's toys, wallpaper, these dyes, wallpaper, food, all sorts of stuff. And by the late 19th century, because of arsenic being so proliferant, it was killing people. People were dying of arsenic poison because they've got arsenic in their dyes, in their dresses, which is absorbent through the skin. They're breathing gases when we've got humidity from their clothing. We're dyeing wallpaper for the walls and the linen that they're probably sleeping in. We've got children playing with toys that are laced with arsenic. We've got food now that has got arsenic in food colouring, green food colouring, which is also laced in arsenic. So green. So we've got the start of poisoning people in this time period.
It's the same old story that we see today, right?
Due to toxic dyes. So the arsenic was actually based on an insecticide. So what is based on an insecticide that we use predominantly now in the 21st century, in the 20th century?
Well, like
Roundup.
glyphosate, yeah.
Yeah, which is found in everything. It's even found in your dog's bloody flea treatments and your dog's worming treatments, and that's why you're poisoning your dogs and your cats.
Yep.
Vaccines. So we won't go down that little one, but
No. And Trump just basically legalized it all across the USA.
Wow,
use as much glyphosate as you want, right?
Yeah, just kill all the weeds, which is another one. Weeds that we're killing with this rubbish.
They're the good
weeds
stuff.
That is all our good stuff, like the dandelions. And there's another weed there that I get a lot here, and it's got a tiny round leaf. It's like a ground crawler. It's got a very pale red arm. Yeah. And it is one of the most superfoods that you can ever eat. It's used in the Mediterranean in salads because it has so much goodness in it. And yet we're being programmed to kill every weed in our gardens, which means if you want to start a garden of fruit and veggies, growing fruit and veggies, and you've sprayed the soil for years for weeds, it's absorbing into your veggies.
Yeah. And I mean, vegetables, right? Like where did they come from? Most of them didn't exist. The ones we eat today didn't exist 100
No,
years ago. So it's probably
no.
best to just make a garden and just do nothing, right? Wait till the weeds grow up and eat them. Because
Eat
there's
them.
also the theory, right, that they're bringing up like that the weeds that grow are basically the nutrients that are lacking from the soil.
Yes.
So they're actually there to build up the soil. And, so if it's lacking from the soil, it's lacking in everything you're growing. So eat
Yep.
the weeds.
Dandelion is the first one that'll grow somewhere where the soil has not, and it puts the nutrients back.
Yep.
Dandelion is probably one of the most important weeds that we can have because it's actually doing the soil good, and yet we're killing it with this bloody Roundup.
Yes, well, I'm not, but yes, I
No, I'm
agree.
not either. So anyway, so a lot of toxic dyes were being produced in the 19th century, and they were all arsenic-based, insecticide, or a byproduct of aniline dye, which is a byproduct of synthetic manufacturing in that time. So London purple was 6% arsenic and 61% arsenate. So you've got arsenic and arsenate, which was extremely hazardous if inhaled, ingested, or absorbed through the skin. So the Victorian era was a chemical dye era.
Interesting. Well, we don't get told that, do we, really?
No, we don't.
From alchemy to chemistry, right?
Yes. And it was put in everything, Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, we hear these stories a lot, like the lead in the top hats that was setting people crazy, but they just kept doing it. And the makeup that had
Yes,
what was it?
makeup's another one.
That was
Lipstick.
toxic and would kill you. But the people just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, even though they were apparently going crazy and dropping dead everywhere. But
Yep.
I mean, it is happening again now, right? I guess they just aren't not telling us how many people are dropping off because of it. But yeah, I mean, it's because when you look at this, it's like there's a natural kind of side, right?
Yes.
Using plants and that and just working with nature. And then there's this chemical L-lite side, right, which is all about killing animals and ripping their guts out and all this weirdness and
Blood.
toxicity and blood. Oh, it's yeah, right. It's interesting.
Sacrificial, isn't it, Campbell?
I know, right? Well, it kind of is, yeah, man. I mean, you're wearing it all over yourself, right?
Yes. Yes. And the thing is that, like you said, there's nothing different happening now. It's just a continuous loop. It's just presented to us in a different way. But we're getting chemical, like we live in polyester. We're living in recycle, and they're proud to put the tags on our clothes. This is made from recycled plastic. Isn't that wonderful?
You're
Your
helping the
toilet
planet.
paper is made out of recycled dockets from your shopping trolleys that you put in your recycle bins, to recycle, but they're actually using the dyes and that estrogen that's on those dockets. We're recycling them. We're bleaching them, and we're making recycled toilet paper that you're putting on your most delicate parts of your body.
Yeah,
And everyone loves toilet paper. I mean, they're just poisoning us again in a different form.
Yeah.
And the carrot dangling, Campbell. So, okay, we've got these rich, luxurious fabrics and colours, and aren't we gorgeous? And wouldn't you want to be like us in those times? And so the population demanded to be like them. So, okay, well, we can't give you those, elusive dyes that we can't produce anymore because they're too good for you. But hey, guess what? We can give you a synthetic dye full of arsenic and poison that will just kill you, and then we'll make you be so happy to wear those colours because you're, imitating the rich and the idols. And hey, because you love it so much, how about we make wallpaper out of it, and we'll even make your bed sheets out of it because now it's available to everybody. Aren't we wonderful? It's just the same bloody bullshit.
Yeah. It's been going, yeah. Well, at least this whole post-reset period that we're in. So, I mean, gosh, I think people are waking up. Let's hope enough have. It's getting crazy out there.
So I hope everyone enjoyed this. It's we try to keep on track. I want to keep them, as light as possible because there's a lot to cover. But dyes was I really wanted to start. I mean, the last week was an introduction of just putting your mind in that place of, what's going on here? Why are we being told one thing when the mathematics don't add up? Well, this is another part of that puzzle now. It's the pigment. The pigment doesn't add up.
No.
And the pigment doesn't add up for, all that colour that was used for centuries before we got synthetics, of why it was so luxurious and so increased in colour and everything, yet we've lost that technology. So there's another program, or something that, it's the same old.
Yeah.
So where did it all really come from?
Well, exactly right. That's something we're going to have to broach and look into for another episode. But yeah, guys, let us know if you've got any info. Leave us comments, obviously, and like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, please like and subscribe for Campbell. That's what we need.
But yeah, it's just like, it just sounds like a completely made up story. And they're actually getting this stuff from somewhere else. I mean, really, the only thing is that guy was making it today, the Tyrian purple, but there's no mention of it in history. Well, which kind of shows history is probably all just written, right? And they just left it out. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
And I haven't even gone into the aquamarine that the Egyptians used. I didn't want to go so far back, but these colours are still there. People go and look at the Egyptian stuff, and yet they've still got this blue. Oh, and indigo blue, quickly.
Indigo
Sorry,
blue.
guys, we didn't even hit indigo blue, and it's probably a very important colour. Again, it started in India, in certain places of India, and it was imported by the East Indies, the Dutch East Indies and the British East Indies companies. And this picture here, if you want to read that, Campbell, it tells you the process up the top of how indigo was done.
Indigo production in the West Indies. Back left, they're harvesting it. Down here, extreme right, water tank for steeping the plants. I guess that's this being thrown in. The second tank is for fermentation. And the third is for beating, what does that say? Oh, it's the beating vat in which the indigo liquor is rapidly agitated by means of wooden contrivance, which is down here. This guy's agitating it. Front right, indigo plants, also prickly pear used for cobinal cultures, copper plate engraving, and from Pierre. Okay, so it's a copper plate engraving. So down here they're I don't know, putting up to dry. So yeah, right. So that's their production facility basically that they're showing us. But I mean, that's small production, right?
Yes.
Like that's not large scale,
production.
Yeah, to make as much as I would need. So all right, so that's the factory. Oh, here we go. They're still doing it. Jeez.
Yep.
India.
Slavery.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, you've got the guards all watching over and making sure that they're beating and turning the water over, but that's one picture of a few people. I mean, we're talking indigo was becoming very, very,
yeah. Yeah, and we've got these two British guys taking the pith with their pith hats on. Oh my gosh, I keep losing where's the arrow there? All right, so this is the colour.
Yes. And again, only the aristocrats could wear that colour because it wasn't, it wasn't a colour that they were going to supply. It had to be made exclusive again.
Of course.
Because maybe they didn't have the people in India like we thought they did, Campbell.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure how many they said were there back, when the Dutch East Indies were there. But I mean, look at China today, right? They try and tell us 1.3 billion, and
Yeah,
clearly that's not
definitely not.
correct.
No.
So, I mean, another one, chairs, right? I'm just looking at this picture, right? He's got gold and gold threading. He's got the blue. He's got the white. He's got the black. He's even got a black
Yep.
ribbon by the looks of it. He's got a red chair. So, just to make that picture and the crisp white, I'm not sure even how they do that.
Chalk,
Imagine the
apparently.
industries, chalk, yeah, right.
Yep.
Imagine the industries just to create what's in
The
the outfit
picture.
and the chair. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. What's this bit? I've never seen anything like that before. That's a bit
That's
weird.
just another lapel that they've put on. They've used a white material, a satin with a blue pattern going through it.
Yeah, right. And the other thing, it's kind of like the buildings, right? Like they tell us they're all built in this, 1800s, but they're all oversized. So why use so much materials, right? Especially in Australia when you're trying to build a new country.
That's right.
Same with this dress. What if it's so hard to get just a little bit of these dyes? Why would you make them so big and so many layers and so much fabric, basically?
That's the question, Campbell. Why?
Why? Unless it was easier than they tell us. Oh, old Napoleon, he told us history is a set of lies agreed upon. That's if he even existed.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yes, that's when indigo got very popular, again, made for just uniforms. It wasn't available for everyone, just for the uniforms, for the wars. And I think it was just generals and captains and that sort of thing that were allowed to wear blue before they became soldier blues.
It's like it's the one of the worst colors you could pick.
Yes.
If you're fighting a war, you're standing out like the
Exactly.
proverbial, right? And then
Yep.
it's so expensive, and you can even see here it's all worn and covered in dust and mud and
Yep.
like again, what's the thinking behind this? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, I haven't even gone into, like I said, it's a huge rabbit hole because felt is another one, Felt was made out of sea fur
Wow,
at one stage.
sea fur. Wow,
Seal,
okay.
sorry,
Oh,
seals.
seal. Oh, God.
Seal fur, yep.
All right.
So, yeah, so indigo was also an elusive colour. And then all of a sudden it became a colour for uniforms. Like I said, from memory, the ward was used for the soldiers' colours because they were a little bit different in blue. But your lieutenants and your captains and everything had the indigo colour in their uniforms, so they stood out and looked more important. And then indigo became somehow a colour that could be made, it became like it wasn't in India anymore. The indigo plant, which is a very fine leafed plant with a little pink flower, started being cultivated in the Caribbeans and South America, in other regions so that it could be mass produced.
Yeah, and let's not forget they needed a lot for the indigo children.
Yes. Oh, symbolism.
It's just the more you look into it, it just all seems like a big bloody trap, really.
Yes.
This illusion that just traps us more and more, and that's all right. Don't worry, we've got something. This will fix it all. AI is definitely good for you guys. Everything else went shit up, but believe us again this time, and a lot of people are. It's interesting.
It's like I said, it's the same stuff. It's just packaged to us in a different way.
Yeah. The song remains the same, right? Nothing is new under the sun. All these sayings, and it is because they've got no imagination. All they can do is follow a script, and they can alter that. They can alter things that have already been created, right? But they can't create a new script. It's just the same old story, and it's just well, let's change the country names. We'll change the leaders' names. We'll tell them this is good. We'll get them eating Wheat Bix and Nutrigrain and tell them that that's going to turn them into an Iron Man.
Yeah. It's exactly right. It's exactly right.
And people buy it.
But just to finish that off, and just to, totally off track here, but the thought of red bricks, Campbell, we're going full loop.
Red bricks, yes. Why are they red?
Why did Pink Floyd sing
another brick in the wall?
Film clip, another brick in the wall, with children on a conveyor belt that drop off and turn into something else?
Get minced, basically.
Well, when you talked about the population, where did it all go? Was our blood used for brick?
Well, it's definitely been brought up before.
And what was used in mortar?
I've heard Martin talk about that. I mean, because what they tell us is that the red in the bricks is iron. And what makes our blood red? Iron. It's the same thing. So, who knows, right? It's a bit of an edge, but there's definitely a lot of bodies missing, right? Like, because
also,
the population dropped like up to 90%.
Yes.
Where are all the bodies?
The bones were used in bone china.
Bone china. A lot of them were minced up, right, for fertilizer. I mean, pretty gruesome type stuff, right? That was going on. But
there is an answer in everything. If that was the case, then that answers where bodies have gone. Because if you even if you don't look at the fact of a minced, the way that Pink Floyd show you, if there was all these wars, and this is something that always affected me as a child, if there was all these wars and all this blood spilt, of course it goes into the soil. And if you're digging that soil up later on, or clay for bricks,
is it in there?
You're talking millions and millions of people, of soldiers and stuff over the centuries, Campbell. Apparently, if that amount of blood was spilt, and a lot of it was spilt in the same place, to me, it would make sense that you have, because they say that the earth is, there was a saying, the earth is made up of the blood of the people, the sacrifices in the wars. So if they become clay pits centuries in the future, or any time, because red brick, as we know, has been around for a lot longer than what we've been told. I mean, tunnels were all made out of red brick, and a lot of red brick we're seeing was used as a base for rendering of geopolymer. So it makes sense to me that a clay that is very rich in iron.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it definitely could be. I mean, obviously they think they're above us and we're their sheeple, goyim, chattel. Maybe we were just a cheaper, easier resource, right? And they needed the iron in there because, well, I mean, then we've got to get back to who built the buildings, right?
That's exactly.
So that's a whole nother.
It is.
Thing.
It is, but this is what came in my. This is how, like, you're on Paula's journey in her brain when I do this research, Campbell, as you know, and while I'm doing all this pigment, it all came into my head about the bricks, the red bricks. Why are they red? I can understand yellow bricks because you've got a yellow clay, but my bricks, the clinker bricks of my house, are very deep red, very deep red.
Yeah, clinker. So, they've got glass and other bits also in them, haven't they? They're a little bit different.
Yeah. So it just, pigment to me, I just feel that if they can't reproduce, and they've tried the old-fashioned way to reproduce some of this pigment, and they can't get the colour fasting that those pigments had, and even to this day, with scientific temperature control, everything perfectly done, they still can't get the holding of colour as they did, or the increase of colour that they did back in that time. I have to ask the question, was some of these dyes have a human element? Because I believe mortar had, like when you listen to Paul Cook when he talked about the geopolymer, and he tried to reproduce the geopolymer because we're talking about a concrete or a base that hardened with time. It didn't decrease. It's getting stronger and stronger, just like the pigment. It's getting stronger and stronger. What element, and he couldn't find it either, what element was put in that we don't know about? Because don't forget, when they talked about that purple, he said it was elusive, the recipe. Everything was elusive, or the recipe was lost at a certain time. We can't find the original recipe to make the colour. I have to ask the question, was there something of human matter put into geopolymer or these pigments to make the lasting effect? Because we're a carbon being.
Yeah.
That's why we can never go neutral in this world. Hello, because we're carbon. Take out all the carbon and we're gone.
I think they're telling us something subtly when they say they're reducing carbon. But yeah, I mean, a big you know, part of like bricks and cement and all that is calcium carbonate, right? Which is pretty much our crushed up bones.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. And when you look again at that purple, why was it just a very small organ of that snail that produced that colour?
Well, I was going to, what glands do we have that produce things?
Boom. Exactly.
I mean, we've all heard of the achrome, right?
Exactly. And our urine, and you know, their urine has properties in it that, you know, like one of them has to have urine. It didn't say human or animal. To me, it makes no difference. Or was human urine, you know, more conductive than an animal urine? I don't know. But there's conductivity going on here as well, because, you know, bones in the catacombs under central parts of cathedrals are a conductive energy. You put conductive energy of humans up the top singing, you've got an organ playing, you're making ritual symbolic sounds, all sorts of things. What is that doing to the vibration? And it's not, you know, it's not the central part of a city everywhere has catacombs under it. Bones.
Yeah, we're definitely, yeah. There's lots of them down there. So, yeah, who knows?
So is that why these pigments were so wanted, Campbell?
It could be, right? I mean, that, you know, that they use animals like that, right? Because they're lower than to us, to them, we're animals. So we know what they do, right? So, you know, it's definitely not beyond the bounds of reality, right? For them harvesting us. And, you know, I mean, just look
blood stains.
Disappearances in national parks.
Yes.
That are never seen again. It's in the like tens of thousands a year, and that's not without all the other missing people and young people and all this kind of stuff. Like we've got a lot of unaccounted people for in modern times.
Yes,
they just
exactly.
seem to vanish, right?
But when you think, you know, when you talked about the berries and how they stain, what else stains? Blood.
It definitely does. It's
very hard to get out of your especially certain. Oh, exactly. But do they ever mention blood as a colour component? No. But I can bet a lot that blood was used.
Yeah, we hear a lot of blood red.
Yes.
But how long is blood red? You cut yourself and in half an hour it's turned black.
Yes.
Right? Or at least a very deep crimson, I guess.
Yes.
You know, they seem to like draining that fluid, don't they? So yeah, I mean, we don't know.
Plasma.
Stop wearing red, guys.
It brings me to a place where is it the frequency of these clothes, Campbell?
Well, you've got to, you know, that's one of the first things I thought was like, you know, got color therapy, right? And we've got all the rose windows in cathedrals all to do with color. So colors definitely affect frequency. And that's what I was thinking. Are they changing all the natural colors for their dead colors?
Yes.
To affect frequency because they do call it dye.
Yes.
You know.
Those spell words again.
Yeah. So, and of course they would revel in wearing that, right? And then they'd laugh even harder if we were doing it without knowledge.
That's my point exactly, Campbell. That's my point. But again, Were they even made by these people?
Well, I mean, exactly. That's the big question. Like,
That's the big question. Hopefully we'll get to somewhere in the end. We'll throw it around.
All of this is just showing it's more and more improbable, right? They didn't have the factories, they didn't have the workers, they didn't have the skill, they didn't have the transport system, they didn't
logistics,
have
everything.
Everything to do all of this stuff. Yet there they are. Well, apparently,
yes,
because all the old world stuff is really just drawings and paintings, right? We don't get photos, pre 1827.
Exactly.
So, it's also an ask, but it definitely looks that way. We've got some of the clothing. So what was going on, well, I mean, when was it? 1500s maybe? It was a different world.
I think like the 14th century Tudor times, I think started all this, Campbell, even back to the 13th century. I think it's, that something's happened in the Dark Ages.
Yeah, when nothing happened. Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah. So
missing 1,000 years. I think
we'll get there.
We're getting there. Yep.
We're getting there. Okay.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Yeah, leave us your comments. Leave us any info you've got, anything that we may not have found. And give us a like, share this around, all that kind of stuff. And we will be back next week to continue the deep dive into fabrics and fashion.
Yes, we're going to do silkworms and velvet, linen, and cotton's just self-explanatory, really, where cotton comes from. And then you've got very delicate muslin and some other ones that are very, very collectible.
Yeah, all these other materials that, like taffeta. How old's taffeta? I remember that one. That was big in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's real or fake, but yes, all right. Wow.
So we'll get into that next week.
All right. Well, thanks again, Paula.
You're welcome. It's so much fun, isn't it, Campbell? I mean, I just love my mind being expanded, and people do comment your face sometimes when I say things. You go, what the hell is that? I don't know. That can't be right.
Oh, God. I'm gonna have to cut it short. Campbell's face, Campbell's expressions.
I love it. It means it's having an effect. It's good.
It is. It's good. All right. Okay, well, we will see you again next week.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Awesome. For another installment. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Stay awesome.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next week.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. Come on!